think we are live now. I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're having a fantastic day. Today, we're here for another inspiring session for my column, Inspiring Figures. And so for those who don't know, Inspiring Figures is like a monthly column that I run on my blog, pauline.com, and it's about the people that you should really know about. It was inspired by the film Hidden Figures, which I highly recommend since if you're looking for a film right now and we're all like in lockdown, it's a good film to watch. Very good. For today's guest for April, I'm really excited to speak to a friend of mine that I've been speaking to for a couple of years now in the Twitter and blog space. Her name is Hiro, and I'll let her introduce herself now. So, hi, Hiro. She's got her mask on. She's going to talk like this for the rest of the session.
Okay. That was a good intro. Hi, Paul. I'm so glad to finally meet you. We were hoping to meet in New York, right? But
yeah, we
just
were.
didn't happen.
Yeah, it's amazing to like talk to you. I mean, like I've been telling Matt, I've been telling like Clark, who's like running this right now, I've been saying like you're amazing, and I'm really just excited to finally have a chat with you and explore like your journey, and also like just I don't know, just have a chat, because it's just so surreal getting to like connect with people who are quite like-minded. So yeah, Hiro, for the people listening, do you want to just run through what you currently do?
Yeah, so I'm Hiro, and I'm a technical writer and consultant, and my focus is on deconstructing technical jargon and concepts to make resources accessible for basically the masses instead of just people with hardcore engineering backgrounds. And I've most prominently been working on deconstructing Amazon Web Services for the past few years. And I'm also a technical instructor teaching introductory AWS courses on LinkedIn Learning.
Amazing. I've done the course, your course, Hiro, and I absolutely loved it. And I also passed, but we'll go into that a bit more in the later on. So Hiro, like, how did you get into this tech space, and where did your journey begin? This is one of my favorite questions because I love seeing where people sort of just come from, and it's always quite a huge diversity. So yeah, let's chat about that.
Yeah, so before I even knew what being in the tech space was, it just wasn't a concept back then. I was making blogs, graphics, and fan websites and the sorts, starting in, I think, 6th grade. So I think that was back in 2000. So we were using dial-up. My laptop was grayscale. And so that's where I kind of started teaching myself HTML and CSS with the resources that were available online then. And I was doing that as a hobby, making friends. Most of my friends were online, obviously. And I was doing that all through middle school and high school. But when I started college, I was like, okay, gotta, quit my hobby that's taking up so much of my time and actually go get a real job, like go get trained for a real job. So my educational background is in special education. So I have a bachelor's and master's degree in special ed. And I kind of just forgot about coding, after going through college and people coming out with a computer science degree and doing all these hardcore engineering things. And I was like, oh yeah, no, that's completely different from what I was doing, making websites. And it was actually not until about 2 years ago when I was working at a tech startup that I realized that people still use HTML and CSS for their front end.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? We haven't moved on to something else yet? Like, what do you mean you're using CSS to make these things? And it just blew my mind that the same languages I was using 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, was like still in use. And I was like, wait a second, like people make this seem really complicated and really hard, but if I could do it in middle school, I could probably pick something back up now.
Definitely.
So even though I was working in tech for a couple of years at that point, I had nothing to do with development. And I kind of started looking back into like HTML5, CSS3, and Bootstrap and things like that about 2 or 3 years ago. And that's when I really got in on the internet side, like social media side of tech. Before then, I was just working in tech, but I wasn't actually doing anything related to kind of talking to other people in that space. And it was just very strange because I'd always been a content creator before I started college. I was like, that phase of my life is done. And then it's like, oh, I'm back. And I was working in IT for 5 years before I quit and became a technical writer. But at the last place that I was working at, which was a tech startup in New York City, I wanted to learn more about this new thing called cloud computing and Amazon Web Services that everyone was talking about. But I just couldn't find any resources that could explain it to me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of significant because I obviously don't have a technical background and I can't speak the jargon, basically. So I couldn't understand half the words that people were using to explain, like if I wanted to understand what an EC2 was, every other word, I couldn't understand it. I'm like, I just want to know what the heck this service does. And
totally feel that.
And I was searching and I was Googling, and I'm pretty good at Googling because I started my career in IT without a technical background. So my teacher was Google.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't find out what these things mean. And I am pretty good at Googling. No one else can find this either. Like this, there's clearly a need that's not being filled. And I had promised my manager at the time that I'm going to pass this AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam by the fall of, I think it was 2017. And I said I was going to pass, but it was like 2 weeks before the exam. And I still had no idea what anything was. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work out. Like, I really need to like figure this thing out. So that's when I created this study blog to study for the exam. And as a teacher, the best way for me to learn is to teach, kind of regurgitating the content in your own words. So I started creating this whole website with like the study notes of everything I was doing, everything I was studying for. And I bought a domain, I spun up an EC2 server, and then installed WordPress and was like, all right, I got a blog. And blogging, I know how to do. I've been blogging for a very long time. So I created that website and I called it awsnewbies.com. And just put everything up on there and spent a week doing that and then study for the next couple of days before my exam. I passed it and I was like, okay, this is done. Like, I'm done. I'm just going to leave it up until the free tier is over. And if anyone finds it useful, they can, enjoy it. Maybe 2 people will find it useful for their next exam. Turns out 10,000 people a month was visiting that website.
Wow.
And I was just like, mind blown. And a few weeks later, I got an email from a content manager at LinkedIn asking me if I'd be interested in teaching on LinkedIn Learning, which used to be known as lynda.com. You do realize I made this website because I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about, right? Like, this is not the person you want to be teaching when I made this because I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. And the content manager was like, actually, we have tons of really, really experienced engineers who are amazing teachers and instructors on LinkedIn Learning, teaching like the mid to high level, like the more experienced levels. But they can't teach the introduction level because it's been so long since they've been a beginner themselves, and they've been in the industry for 10, 20 years, and they just don't know what people don't know. Because it's just so part of their life. And they're like, you have the ability to understand how these people feel and have the ability to kind of talk about it in a way that people can understand. And so they're like, you're actually like the perfect, like the medium to get this content out to this set of people. And I was like, oh, like for once, like me not understanding things is actually like an asset. And it was just like such a weird moment for me because I had thrown away my background in education because I was like, oh, that's my past, that's just my degrees, but I'm doing nothing with my degrees. And it just kind of made this whole circle where now I'm teaching about tech and utilizing like my like skills that I learned as a special ed teacher, because that's literally what you do in special ed is you have a curriculum, you have a set of content, and then you modify that content to make it accessible for these individuals with different needs. And obviously the way that tech is currently running, where they just kind of create content for other engineers who also have 5 to 10 years of experience, is not the model that we want for people that we want to pull into tech.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really like big on getting people into tech because I believe it's just this fundamental way of kind of evening the playing field.
Definitely.
And a lot of things like AWS, you shouldn't need that engineering degree. It's something that everyone can use. It's just no one's really helping them get to the first step. And I decided, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get them up to that first step. I kind of explain it like I'm going to open the gates and teach the jargon, like make it easier to understand for people with zero technical background. And then once they get that fundamentals, there are so many amazing resources available that takes advantage of the fact that people understand a certain level of jargon and concepts. But there was really nothing to kind of bridge that gap between these amazing resources and, hey, hello, like I'm trying to figure out what the heck cloud computing is in the first place, but no one will tell me what that means. So I, over the past year and a half, I've released 4 courses with LinkedIn Learning of series called Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers. And it kind of takes you from what the heck is the cloud to taking the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner exam to hopefully get you like AWS certified. And that kind of comes with a lot of perks being AWS certified.
Definitely.
So that's been a thing that I've been working on. And last June, I quit my full-time job as a sysadmin at the tech startup to do this full-time.
That's obviously worked out so well for you.
Yeah,
that's amazing, and it's great that you've been able to use like your degree now and bring value to other people, because like I need to. Hiro hasn't paid me or anything to say this because I genuinely have used AWS newbies when I was learning cloud computing. So last year I made it one of my goals to learn about cloud computing because in my current graduate scheme, so like in the grad scheme I'm in now, it's like a training program for newly graduated students. So when I graduated from uni, I was like, I need to go into like a training program because I don't really know what I want to do. So I had this great opportunity to do a bit of everything every 6 months. So in my third like team I was rotating into, it was all about infrastructure and cloud and AWS. And I was like, yes, this is so exciting. But as a front end developer, most of my life, I was like, I have no idea what anyone is saying. I was literally like that first week at the job, I was just like, I have no idea what anyone is saying. I don't understand AWS. I don't understand how it all links up together. And I just want to say, like, Hiro, your blog and all the content that you've created, your courses, I got them and it just stuck. You're really, really good at like describing really technical concepts and making it digestible for us like non-engineers, the people who didn't do like a computer science background. So yeah, it's been fantastic. Hiro didn't pay me to say that, but I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic resource. And yeah, I actually ended up pursuing the AWS CCP, and I passed first time. I was very, very shy. Honestly, Hiro, I was in the exam, just before you go into the exam hall, I was there in the waiting room and I was like on your blog and I was like, oh. I was so stressed out, but it was so good because it was like just a really good summary. It was just nice to read someone's like notes and then be like, okay, yeah, I learned it that way as well. And whenever I'm in the exam, if I'm stuck, I could just think about like one of your posts, one of your pages, and honestly, fantastic. It would change my life. And now like I absolutely love AWS, even though it frustrates me sometimes, but that's another conversation.
I think it frustrates everyone, including the people developing it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Hopefully, like one day they'll clean it up a bit, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, so it's awesome to see you like flourish in, working for yourself now. And it's honestly, I've been following you on Twitter for the last, I don't know, I think 4 years now, and I absolutely I know it's been so long. I was literally thinking about when I started following you, and I was like, oh my god, it's so weird. But I think it's really weird that I've seen you sort of like grow from being sysadmin to being like a technical writer and instructor. It's just really great to see you like do your own thing, take control. So yeah, it is super inspiring. I just want to sort of like now delve into like working as a freelance entrepreneur, just for a moment. Could you like share a little bit about, taking the leap and what advice you would give to anyone who's also interested in going for it as well?
Yeah, so one thing that I noticed a lot when I was preparing to and actually took the leap is that it's kind of like the AWS newbies.com thing, but that chunk is missing in everyone's narrative. People are like, oh, I hate my 9 to 7 job or whatever. And then suddenly they're like making millions of dollars, right? And you're missing that chunk in the middle of what did you do? How are you doing your taxes? Like, how do you even become a freelancer? Where do you register for a company? Like all these like mundane things. Like I didn't even know which order to create my bank account and my credit card and all these things. Turns out I did it in the wrong order because no one told me. Well, that's a fire alarm.
Oh my god.
Let me mute myself for a sec.
Yes. That's okay. Whilst Hiro is doing that, that is the first time that's happened on here. That's pretty cool. All good? It's still going? That's fine. That is the first time that's happened, and that's pretty cool. It's all right, Hiro, sort it out. That's so cool. I don't know. It's not cool, obviously. I hope she's okay. I might stop it. I want to say. I don't know. Yeah, go on. So I'm actually talking to my brother guy now. Oh.
Okay, hi. Hello.
All good? All good? Not good? Oh, he was going for it. She's doing it on the go. Is she doing it on the go?
Oh my god, okay.
This is new. Hiro, honestly, if you need to go, are we gonna?
It's not my building. Well, it is my building, but it's not my apartment.
Oh, is it not?
Yeah, so I'm in the hallway now.
Yeah, that's fine. Hiro, if you want to
go back.
Are we gonna do it right here?
Yeah, I'll just sit here.
Are you sure? Are you sure we can stop it and then wait?
That's fine.
Okay, are you sure? Oh my gosh. Wow. We're going for it.
Unless the sound is really annoying.
No, it's not that bad.
Okay. Let me just
You know what, Hiro? I think I'm concerned for your safety, so I'm
No. This happens like once every 2 months.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh. If it's okay. Oh, okay. I mean, we can go for it if you're happy with it. Otherwise,
it's not our building, right?
This is us.
But it's not like our room.
It's not our room.
Yeah.
this is real life, everyone. I love it.
Is it?
Yeah.
You just locked it. Okay, 1 second. Apparently.
No worry. I'm just sand, the dirt that they're trying to get.
Okay, no problem.
The dirt says, that. Yeah.
We're back, apparently.
We're back. Okay. Wow. Absolutely love the timing. I absolutely love it.
Ha. That was eventful.
That was eventful. You know what? That has made my day. But I'm glad you're okay and everyone in your building is okay.
I think they're doing construction downstairs, so they probably did something.
Yeah, probably. Oh gosh, are you? Whew.
I'm back.
There you go. We're back. Awesome. Absolutely love that. Of course, that would happen.
Of
Right.
course, right?
Okay, back to where we were. What were we even talking about? Now, all I want to know is what's happening in your building. But we'll refocus. So yeah, like I said, what we were talking about, taking the leap and advice for anyone. Yeah.
Yeah. So before we're rudely interrupted by non-existent fire in my building, basically one of the things that I was really baffled is there seem to be so many people, especially people I'm connected to on social media, who has taken the leap before I have. But there's no one who can tell me like the step-to-step of what to do in the right order to make sure that I'm set up properly, like my taxes are going to be done. Like, I'm like, how does everyone do their taxes? And apparently they don't.
Oh, yes, that was what I was going to say. Yes.
Yeah, that's not going to work out for me. But it was just kind of like it was just bizarre to me that there wasn't like something like awsnewbies.com written for people who are going freelance that I could just easily find and just follow the steps. And so that was very annoying and stressful for me at the time because I'm like, I don't have enough things going on right now trying to, quit my full-time job and try to figure out how this whole freelancing thing goes, finding clients, there's like so many things that go into being a freelancer. And then there's all these like administrative aspects that I have absolutely no idea. And so one of the things that just I think was important for me was like sharing that kind of frustration and journey on social media, because as I said before, it seems like everyone's like, oh, hate the 9-to-5 job, become an entrepreneur, you make millions of dollars. And it's just not the way it works. They're skipping like this really vital middle part that's probably like 5 or 10 years, and it's like you find yourself comparing yourself to like someone who's there, but that person, it took them years to get there. But because you don't know about those couple of years where they made like nothing and they had a lot of difficulties, you just see their success. You're like, why am I not here? Like, why am I like not, is this going to be okay? But it's like, okay, calm down. Like, you've only been doing this for like 2 months. Obviously, you're not going to be making $1 million. And in my case, I didn't quit really to make $1 million. It was more I wanted to change in lifestyle. And I was working too much and I was being too stressed. And I also felt like the work that I was doing at my full-time job wasn't what I felt like where my skills could be put to the best use. And so it was kind of like, oh, hey, where should I put my set of skills? And it wasn't as a sysadmin at a tech startup. I felt like, okay, any sysadmin can do the job that I was doing. It's like, where do I have like my specific set of skills is clearly like deconstructing technical jargon, and it's not being done. So when I decided to move on, it seems like it just happened, but it didn't just happen, which I think is another issue with the social media kind of like, entrepreneur thing. Yeah. But I'm like, everyone needs to get their ducks in order. Like, a lot of people do come to me asking like, oh, I want to do what you do. I want to become a freelance person. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, first of all, do you have your finances in order? Do you have at least half a year of savings? But as an entrepreneur, like freelancer, you should probably have more. Like, I had a couple years worth of like savings I could live on it on a bare minimum.
Yeah.
And that's important because unlike a full-time job, you don't know how long it's going to take for you to get a certain amount of money. And also you may get it and then just stop. It's kind of one of those things where you really need to have your finances together. And if you're in the US like I am, you really need to research your health insurance options. Like, I have multiple chronic illnesses and disabilities, and not having health insurance is not an option. It will literally bankrupt you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had to get my insurance in order. my finances in order. And also you have to actually kind of have validated your concept of work before you take the leap. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to become a technical writer. Like, you made it work, I'll make it work. And I'm like, I have no doubts that you have skills, but where are your writing samples that you are going to send to your potential clients? Like, you have to create the kind of work that someone's going to pay money for, and they have to pay good money for it. It can't be like, Upwork.com where they'll pay you $5 for 500 words. You have to get them to accept that you are worth paying hundreds of dollars for that article. And there are just so many steps that I think people need to kind of check off. And I think talking to people who have just done it is really good idea, because we still fresh remember the struggles of like making that transition. Whereas if you talk to someone who did it 10 years ago, it's like, oh yeah, it was great. I just didn't pay taxes for 5 years, but it's fine. And I'm like, you can say that because you're fine on the end, but we're not fine. Like, So I think it's like you got to dot all your I's and all your T's and have like, contingency B, C, and D before you actually make that leap. But at the same time, you can't like wait for that perfect time, because that perfect time will never come. You just kind of have like good level of like confidence and good level of money that you're like, okay, I'm not going to starve in 3 months if I get $0, and then make the leap. And in my case, I had passive income from the LinkedIn learning courses. So at the very minimum, I had this like very minimum level of money coming in, which is very different from zero. Like, having just some sort of money coming in passively is very different from zero. So yeah, it's kind of like if you have to take a part-time job just to have like some sort of income, like, do it. And that was kind of like, it seemed like I just went F you and just left, but I had been building up to it I think year.
I think knowing you, Hiro, and like just following your journey, and just chatting like privately, I think like you were very like on it in terms of knowing what you wanted at the end of it, and you were very, obviously you planned quite a lot, and like you said, social media has this weird illusion that it happens overnight, but it just doesn't. And it's great that like that was the most like realistic answer I've had from anyone. Honestly, that is what you need. So for the next question, I wanted to delve into AWS again and AWS newbies. So do you want to like just talk about the the inspiration behind creating it? I know you touched on it briefly before, and why you think it's such an important community to have.
Yeah, so I did touch on it earlier, but AWSnewbies.com came because I needed help and I couldn't find the help. So I was like, I need to help myself. And I had a little bit of kind of experience doing what I did with AWSnewbies.com, because back when I was in college, I experienced the same exact thing except for life-threatening illness. And I had this thing called arteriovenous malformation, which is a vascular to blood vessel issue in my brain. And it was likely that I was going to have a stroke at some point in the next couple of years, and it was causing grand mal seizures and all these things. And I was trying to find resources online that could explain to me what this disease even was. And I couldn't. And it was in the mid 2000s. Oh, it was like 2011. So it was about 10 years ago. And now I find so many more things written for like the patient and the layperson. But back then there was like nothing that's written for the layperson. It was all written for other medical professionals. But we're the ones experiencing it, right? We're the ones that don't understand what the heck is going on. So I had actually created a website and like a whole community of thousands of members around this vascular disorder and brain aneurysm and stroke and stuff to like share resources. And I was explaining what this disorder was in like plain text for people to understand. And people were like, oh, this is what it is. And I'm like, yeah, I know your doctor couldn't explain it to you because my doctor certainly couldn't explain it to me. So I kind of brought in like the knowledge of how to do these kinds of things and brought it to tech.
Yeah.
And I felt it was important because if I, as someone who's been working in IT for a couple of years before then, couldn't understand what they're trying to explain to me, and a lot of things were saying like, oh, we're going to explain it to you like you're 5. And I'm like, okay, so I obviously don't have the intellectual level of a 5-year-old because I still don't understand it. After I thought about it for a while, I realized it's because they are explaining it to someone who has zero cloud computing knowledge, but they're not explaining to someone who has zero technical knowledge. So they are still taking for granted that you have like 10 years or 5 years of like engineering background. And that wasn't who I was, and that wasn't who my audience was. And so I created that website, and then I was like, wow, this is something that I could really get behind on. So that kind of just kept on going with the past 2 years of me trying to figure out what more I can do. And something I launched earlier this year was cloudnewbies.com, which is like a Discord server for people to come together and study for certification exams for all different kinds of cloud computing platforms, and also kind of ask questions and talk about things and then talk about your wins. And the reason why I created this was because when I was starting, I wanted a place like that, and like an active community that's very inclusive and people are very willing to help. But I just couldn't find any that's active and also is for people who have like zero experience.
Yeah.
And people are talking about really, really complicated things on some forums. But then I can't come in and go, hi, can I ask this really, 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 really basic question? Like, but if I don't understand this very basic concept, I can't move on. And it just, nothing felt like I can just come in and ask that really fundamental question that will help me like get to the next level. And so thanks to the connections and friends that I've been making on social media because of AWS Newbies and all the ways that I've been interacting with the community, there are a lot of people who are like veterans, people who actually work at AWS, people who were creating these things, coming into the Discord community, and like other instructors and other teachers just coming in and teaching and helping people that are new in this community. And I'm like, this is exactly what I wanted. And really glad that that's kind of taken off. I checked yesterday and there's like a little over 400 members there since January. And
I'm one of those members, by the way. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it's just, people are just so nice. And I'm like, this
is lovely.
Because as a woman in tech in like my department, my whole department had only me as a woman for 2 years until I brought in another woman. Like this is the whole like IT sys-eng department of the whole 700 people company. You know, it's like I'm very used to being like spoken to very condescendingly, and it's just kind of been like, oh, okay, this is a very tough place for me to be in. But then this community, everyone's like so nice and so helpful. I'm like, wow, you guys are amazing. But yeah, with the course, I also looked this up yesterday, and the Introduction to AWS for Non-Engineers is a 4-part series. Yeah. And we are about to hit 34,000 students in the past year.
That is incredible. Amazing. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's like such a huge number that I don't even know how to process it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and for a while, the first course of the series was in like the popular or hot or some category of courses. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. But it also really shows how there's such a need.
There is.
That wasn't being met. And yeah, it's the first course has over 22,000 students. So hopefully the other 3 will catch up at some point in some level. But that first course is like kind of holding the most of the students there. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of messages recently telling me like they're taking the courses and it's really helping. So it's kind of like every message is like, oh, you know, because you have all this imposter syndrome, right? Because I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like, this is something that needs to be brought out, so I'm going to do it. But I'm like trying to trample on my imposter syndrome every friggin' step of the way. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? But like you and like other people who tell me, oh my God, you like help me pass my exam, help me understand this, help me get this first job. And I'm just like, okay, so there's meaning. There's meaning to what I'm doing.
What you're doing is adding value to people's lives.
Yes. Thank goodness. But, yeah, so that's kind of been my like when I was reading, I've been reading a lot of kind of like freelancing or entrepreneurship or kind of more like what it is that you want to do with your career kind of work. And they were saying like there are people you can pivot around and change what you do. But like there's usually one main core value that you're trying to get to. And I was like, okay, so my core value is that I'm going to make something accessible to a certain group of people who don't have accessibility to that. And so in the first, like when I was in college, that was like this medical community of people, patients and their families who needed to access and understand what the heck this really, really rare disorder is. And now it's like AWS and cloud computing and tech to people who don't have technical background, who want to get into tech. And I'm sure it'll evolve to something else later, but I think that value is going to be the same.
Yeah. You've definitely got that central skill that you're really good at and that you're obviously excelling. And wherever you apply it, it will be amazing. It will be successful. Hiro, that's just so inspired. That's so inspiring. We've actually got, I don't know if you've seen, but there's a few comments on our YouTube live and people just saying, you're great. You're doing amazing, Hiro. Just wanted to stress that. I just wanted to move on to blogging because we actually first connected through blogging. So before we got onto this call, we were actually talking about how, so I wrote, I think I was in New York, or I don't quite remember, but I was in New York, and then I was like sharing loads of stuff about New York and then writing blog posts about it or something, and then we connected from there and we wanted to meet each other in New York. It's just like super cool. So we were from that blogging sort of community. Could you tell us like a bit about your blog and like what you write about? So I know that you write a lot for like AWS newbies and as a technical writer, but I know you have like a personal blog too. So do you want to just quickly talk about that?
Yeah, so my blogs moved around a lot in the past. I guess it's 2 decades, because I think I started blogging in 2000. And, you start on like MySpace and and stuff and, Blogspot, and, you just move around everywhere. So I just actually recently started another personal blog, just kind of to like start over on Heroku.io. And it just kind of coincided with all the quarantine things happening. And I figured like this was probably a part of my life that I'm probably going to want to remember at some point and see what's been going on. So I've been writing about that. And it's been almost a year since I started freelancing and working for myself. And I'm like, okay, I need more structure in my life. I need to like output more. I've been writing for clients. I've been writing for technical things, but I kind of want to get back into like lifestyle writing and also kind of writing for publications, hopefully, where I just had so much happen in my life, especially with like the medical snafus and like disability related and getting into tech. And like, there's so many things that happen. So I'm like, I kind of want a place where I write whatever I want to write. And technical blogs are great, but it kind of limits you on what you can write about. So in the past, I've written about my life, my day. Like at some point, I was writing like 4 entries a day about what happened that day or what I'm thinking about. When I'm in like high school, and I'm like, how did I have that much to write about anything? Like, I'm going to school. I'm coming home. I'm online. Like, what am I even writing about?
Yeah, oh my God. When I look back at my old blog posts, I'm exactly the same. I'm literally like, why? How could I write so much about like random stuff? I don't know.
I mean, I wish I had that level of creativity and like, ability to spit that much out now. But at the same time, I'm like, who read this? But I don't know why. I'm like, I was not reading this. So now I'm just kind of writing about like challenges that I'm doing for myself. Like I'm doing a no spend challenge this month, and I've been trying to do a walking challenge, like these things. I'm just like keeping track of it, and I'm keeping track of the way that my county and state and the country is reacting to the coronavirus. And yeah, I just kind of write about that.
Yeah, it is. It is a really good place to, just having a blog is just a good place to document everything that's going on. Like you said, it's why I have a blog. I haven't written like a specific thing about coronavirus, but I've got like a journal full of all of my feelings that I'm gonna put into a blog post. That's just so much emotion. But it's needed. It's needed to like for me to like process it and everything. So yeah, we'll definitely like link your blog for everyone to have a look at. So this is actually my final question. Time has flown by so quickly. So because
didn't help.
yeah, because I hope they're okay. That's a follow-up question. Because 2020 hasn't been amazing so far, I just wanted to like end our session together full of good vibes. So could you like share anything you're looking forward to, or like anything you want to celebrate recently, and anything you're excited about learning or doing? Just anything good vibes.
So one thing that I just finally achieved is 2 months ago, a little over 2 months ago, I started walking every day, and my goal was to walk 10 miles a day, and I achieved that last Sunday. So now I'm in more of like a maintenance mode of kind of like trying to figure out like probably 6 to 8 miles a day usually, and then maybe once a week 10 miles a day. But it's just like I kind of started with zero as a complete couch potato 2 months ago, and I'm almost at 70 days of like walking continuously.
Wow.
And scaling up from like 2 miles a day all the way to 10 miles a day. And the time constraint of that is just way too much. It takes me like 3 hours. I'm just freaking walking outside for 3 hours a day, right? Like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
As little work as I do, so I have time, but that's still not sustainable. But it's just, I thought it would take me months to work up to 10 miles a day. So I'm kind of really surprised it took me a little over 2 months. And it's almost my 1 year anniversary to quitting my full-time job. And obviously that was like a huge nerve-wracking thing, and that wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
I was going to quit, I think December, like 4 months ago. So I was planning my like exit strategy for that, but I ended up quitting half a year earlier on my birthday. That was my 30th birthday present to myself.
The best present, to be honest.
Yes. I was like, when I turn 40, how upset am I going to be that I wasted half a year of my youth? Because that's like the youngest you're ever going to be, right?
Yeah.
Being at a job that you hate.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I think the 40-year-old me would be really upset.
Yeah. That's so good. It's so good that you're so forward thinking. That's amazing.
Yeah, I was like, when you're entrenched in the moment, everything seems so big, like this constant, like you can't quit a job without another job. And I like really grappled with that. And then after a while, I'm like, why not?
Yeah.
I'm like,
exactly.
It's not like I don't have money. I've been saving while living in New York City for 5 years, so I have a certain amount of money that I can lean on. If I made $0 for the next 3 years, I'll be fine. And I got my health insurance sorted out, and I have so many people cheering me on, and people who've been telling me that they're willing to like give me work when I'm finally have some free time, which I didn't have any of. And I'm like, if it doesn't work out, I'll try to get another job. And I know getting another job is a very, very difficult thing. So I was very nervous about like, if I quit, I'll never be employable again. But surprisingly, it's been the opposite. Like, companies are seeking me out now, trying to drag me out of retirement. And they're like, what do we need to do to drag you out of retirement? And I'm like, there's nothing you can do. You need to walk 3 hours a day. But yeah, it's just been so fascinating how the table had turned, kind of, because before I quit my job, I was looking for another job. I was interviewing in a lot of places, and it's just like never really worked out because I was the one interviewing and I was the one begging for a job. And then suddenly they're like, what do we need to do
to get
to
you
take our job? And I'm like, there's nothing you can do to make job. But we'll talk.
Yeah.
And it only took a couple months of me freelancing to get to that point. And I was like, wow, all those years that I was really nervous about doing this because I thought I would never have a job again. It's like, it wasn't true. Like, I'm a lot more employable now than I was before for taking that leap.
Yeah.
But
that is so inspiring, Hiro, because like I think like a lot of people, myself included, I don't know, it might just be society telling us that we need to always have a job lined up, or else we'll get kicked out of our flat, even if, I don't know, and we won't be able to eat. We always need a constant stream of income. But when you're like very forward thinking like you are and plan ahead and everything, I think it really works out for the better. That was amazing, because like I'm constantly trying to get to a position where I am confident that I have enough skills that I can literally do anything I want. So that's, again, I'm 23. I'm trying to like take it slow because I can't go full steam ahead. But yeah, it's one of my biggest dreams, just to make sure that I have enough skills to really like be fully independent, if that makes sense. So yeah, no, that's really, really inspiring.
Well, it's also very like, it was important to me to kind of do this at some point, but probably earlier is better, because the permanent disability rate of rheumatoid arthritis is so high that I was like, if I don't do this now and I can't move in 10 years, and I'm like, why did I sit at this office job that I'm really, really, really not feeling good about when I could have been trying? And even if I failed, right? Like, even if I failed, at least I know I tried and I did it. Whereas otherwise I'll be sitting there like immobile and in so much pain, going like, what if, what if I had? And I was in so much chronic pain and insomnia and like just exhaustion, and it was crazy. Like, I think it was like a month or two after I quit my job, my insomnia was gone and most of my chronic pain was gone. Like, most of my joint inflammations were gone. And it's like, yeah, it's stress induced. And
that's insane.
I know. And I'm like technically in remission, but I'm not, because I still have to take medication. But the level of medication I'm taking is so low that the doctors like, it shouldn't actually be doing anything. But I don't take it, like I start flaring up again. But when I am taking it at this very, very, very low dosage, like I'm like almost normal, and it's because I'm like changing my lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like,
gosh.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's amazing. Wow. Wow, like that is a really positive way to end our session here. Thank you so much. I could talk to you for hours. We might do a follow-up. I have so many follow-up questions actually. But thank you so much for being on today's like Inspiring Figures and being our Inspiring Figure of the Month. Just quickly, where could people find you online?
Yeah, so people can find me on my blog. I said like hiroko.io, and that generally has links to everywhere. But I'm very, very active on Twitter, and that's just my full name. So it's just at Hiroko Nishimura, which you should probably just read somewhere instead of me trying to spell it out to you.
Yeah. And
if you are interested in AWS or kind of learning about cloud computing, but you're not sure, I have intro to AWS.com has all of my courses there. And cloudnewbies.com is where you can come to kind of talk to people. And it's a really nice community of people. And AWSnewbies.com is obviously where it all started, but that's kind of where you can start learning about AWS in words instead of every other mode of communication that I'm attempting now.
I'll definitely link everything. And I just want to vouch again that Hiro's courses do work. I'm AWS certified because of Hiro. And definitely just check them out. Thank you so much again, Hiro. I'll do a write-up about our conversation today and share it all over social media. In the meantime, I was just about to say thank you again for everyone who's listening in and everything. But also remember to stay safe, stay at home where you can, and we'll see you next month.
Your mask.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hiro. Bye, everyone.